I'm Skylar. I'm in 10th grade, and here's the Fireside Chat with Jason Calacanis.
Actually, let's fix his face. It's part of our To the Moon theme. I don't know, Jason, if you know that.
I'm going to get into that elbow, like armrest war. Everybody knows that technique. Man, you got to like...
You are already in the business class, Jason. I should be doing that.
I feel like you're really far away. Can you sit in A1,
Sure.
please? Move closer. Let me just put my seat back. Look at this crew. This reminds me of the early days of the internet. It's literally like the early days of the internet. It's like a group of misfits who are completely enthusiastic about something that has absolutely no basis in reality. You're all so fucking crazy delusional. I love it. You're going to make this work. I feel like this whole thing is going to, you guys are going to figure it out.
Well, I think we can.
You can?
I think we can figure this out.
Well, thanks for having me, Kurt. This is pretty impressive.
Actually, I should thank you because you're 50% of the reason why we are all here.
Really?
Yeah.
Please explain.
So somewhere in March, when we met at Launch Festival.
Yep.
Was it the Angel Festival? Yeah. I walked over to you and I just said, hey, Jason, would you like to come over? We're doing a conference.
Yeah.
I didn't have a venue, didn't have any sponsors, nothing. And I said, would you like to come? And you said yes.
Buy some books.
And buy some books, which we did. And I was like, okay, that was easy peasy.
Yeah.
Had you not said yes and gave me that encouragement to go forward, I would have still be spinning my wheels thinking, oh, you know what, before I talk to a speaker, before I invite him, I need to have these sponsors, I need to have this venue, and all of this spinning, and we would still be sitting in my bathroom having this shadow conversation like, okay, what would I tell Jason? How can I convince him? But you just did it.
And you just learned your first lesson of being a Jedi Knight.
Well, I don't know about that.
Congratulations. You now understand, like a Jedi,
right?
They go and they do things. They're not passive, right? And being active in the world and doing things separates you from all the non-Jedi. And now you're on your way. But just be careful because sometimes Jedis lose hands and arms and legs. So
well, this is
just make sure you complete your training.
Well, this is a one-time event. I'm not doing another event.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a project...
He's lying. He's just going to up the ticket price, and then you guys will all convince him
I'm a project manager, not a conference organizer.
All right. Well, thank you for buying all the books, and I'm going to sign them all at the back, and I hope people read it. But you have questions for me. Go ahead.
Yes, and I do want to make a quick announcement. So people who have bought the paid VIP passes right after our panel, Fireside Chat, Jason is going to be on the shop floor. Go ahead to the registration desk, get your books, and he will sign them graciously.
I will sign all those books.
Make sure you tweet, take lots of photos, and there's a banner, and you guys might get confused. Why does it say 2013?
Yeah, you stole that banner for my conference.
Actually, you guys were going to throw it away.
And you took it.
And I told Jason DeMont, hey, why are we throwing this away? And that was the first time I had attended and volunteered at your. I still had the T-shirt.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, whatever. So I took out the PVC pipes because I had a Camry. And I'm like, I can't fit this in my Camry. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to chuck the PVC pipes out, fold it, put it.
Smart
and it's been in my house. I thought I would hang it somewhere.
Do you sleep in it? Is it like a comforter?
No, I mean...
Anyway, I made a big mistake, which is I used to put the year on the banner.
Yes.
See, the secret is to don't put the year, and then you can use it over and over again.
Actually, you may not realize it, but there are certain things from Launch Festival that have actually absorbed and incorporated.
Yeah, the VIP pass.
The VIP,
Brandis,
Scott up front.
Scott up front, good.
And the video wall.
Video wall, yeah.
This
shit's expensive.
It's very expensive.
This is like 30 grand.
Double it.
Yeah. You know what the one at Launch Festival was?
Maybe 100?
150.
150, okay.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
Nice.
Never again. All right, ask me a question about cryptocurrencies. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, let's get right into it. So, How do you feel about cryptocurrency and the model that cryptocurrency ICOs are taking versus the traditional VC capital venture funding? How do you feel?
It's a good question. I have been studying what's happening in the crypto space for a long time, and I've had 21 & Co. and Tezos and Jason Goldberg and basically everybody who's involved in the crypto space, Brock Pierce, on my podcast over the last 4 years talking about cryptocurrency and ICOs. And there's obviously a lot of great fundamentals here. That's why people are so enthusiastic. But we've now hit a moment in time where I think it's getting truly dangerously a bubble. And as long as you're cognizant of the fact that you're in a bubble, you can protect yourself. And bubbles typically have some benefits for those people who don't get destroyed when they blow up. And so when I was just thinking about it last night, and I had this like crazy dinner last night with like a bunch of crypto people, and it's like a religion. I mean, these people, they're just so nuts about this. It's ridiculous. And I go home and I had a drink or two, and I literally dreamt about cryptocurrency last night and ICOs. I'm not kidding. I'm having this crazy dream, and there's a tiger, and then they were talking with this tiger about ICOs, and it was nuts. Anyway, I'll put that aside. And I was thinking about it, and I woke up like in the middle of the night, and I jotted down some notes about this because I was like, wow, I've been looking at all these ICOs, and I invest in 30 companies for a living. I've only done one crypto investment, Abra, A-B-R-A, which won the launch festival a couple years ago.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, look at these ICOs. So I typed in ICO to Google, and I saw 4 or 5 ads for ICOs. And the ad said, get in now, 50% bonus, the #1 ICO, top-ranked ICO quality. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was on Instagram stories last week, and I swiped through Instagram stories, and there was an ad for Science's IPO with a countdown clock and one of the world's greatest incubators. And I just thought to myself, if it's the world's greatest incubator, then you don't need to advertise, and you're oversubscribed. So obviously it's not the world's greatest incubator. Although Science has done some great things, advertising and hard sell advertising with countdown clocks is a huge mistake. And I'm friends with, we're sort of friends, or maybe I was friends, I might not be friends anymore, with Peter and Mike. And I told them straight up, like, this is really a bad idea to be doing hardcore advertising like this. But just take this into just listen to this profile of the companies, because I was looking at them and I said, wow, these are people with no track record, raising large amounts of money, check, right? We all agree on these two facts, largely, to build some derivative and copycat ideas described in white papers and business plans, okay, check, and not all ICOs, but most of them. And they're raising money from consumers who find out about them in advertising and chat rooms, and they're pocketing 10 to 20% of what they raise as a commission, while 100% of the people at this conference who I talk to are in agreement that 98% of ICOs are total crap and going to zero, but they are still here. So this reminds me exactly of the dot-com era, which was we were sitting there going, we know there is something here, but this is all complete utter bullshit and a scam, and none of this is going to work. But what happened was very interesting. So I wrote some notes about that too, because we really thought that in Web 1.0 there was something there, but we had a hard time describing it.
Right.
And what it was a company named Amazon came out of that. And basically the only other things that came out of it, towards the tail end, Google, but no other companies really came out of that era. But if you look at just those two companies, they have $1 trillion in market cap and hundreds of billions in revenue. So I predict that a similar thing will happen here, which is somewhere in this room or this space in these ICOs, it's all utter nonsense, and you're going to lose everything except 1 or 2 companies, which will become fabulously game-changing companies.
Right.
And if you look at what happened when the bubble burst, how many people are over the age of 35? Who's over the age of 35? Who's under the age of 35? Raise your hand. Great, perfect. It's 50-50. The people under the age of 35 didn't really experience the bubble like we did. But what happened when that bubble grew is it popped and it infected the world. like a crazy virus. And the virus was the internet. And we got Wi-Fi, Ethernet in every computer, which back then everybody remembers. You had to put an Ethernet card or buy an Ethernet dongle for your USB on your laptop. We had this crazy fiber that was invested in around the world that nobody ever used. And it took a decade to actually start using it. And we also had open source and mobile phones and the App Store and broadband and this global growth. And so the question is that what's going to happen here? Or will this be similar to other booms and busts we've had, like P2P, which was going to change everything? And there were an incredible number of companies. Travis did famously Scour, Napster, but none of those ever made any money. In fact, they all went away. And Netflix and Spotify became eventually what P2P was and became today. So these bubbles are very important, I think, in society. And now they move faster because we have social media. So what's different about the crypto bubble than the Web 1.0 bubble was the Web 1.0 bubble, that happened from 94 to 2000. It was 6 years. And boy, did I have a great run with Gordon, running Silicon Valley Reporter and being a journalist and an entrepreneur and doing conferences. But this one is occurring over half that amount of time, and it's 10 times bigger, I think. And now, will the impact be lasting is the question that I have. And so I think, to your original question, would you invest in any of these companies? Well, giving money to somebody with no experience for writing a white paper is a horrible decision to make as an investor. If you've done that, you're an idiot, and you will get $0 back in all likelihood. People should be given money after they make stuff, and there should be a process. Now, does that mean that one of these companies that has been given $100 million will not have manifest destiny and it will actually result in something good? It's quite possible that it will. But as an investment strategy, it is the worst possible strategy to give people who are good promoters and bullshit artists who make white papers money, as opposed to people who actually build things. The reward, and what we do in Silicon Valley today when we invest, is we look for traction. We look for builders. We look for people who actually make stuff. And in this crypto bubble, you have people from around the world throwing money into projects behind people who have no experience, and I don't think most of them will ever deliver their products. So if you've made money in crypto, sell half and bank the win, and then let the rest ride. If you have not banked the win, you are a fool, because this will all be coming crashing down. And then from those ashes will come the Amazon. But if you've made a shit ton of money now, take the money and buy a house 100 feet back from the ocean, because global warming is going to happen. And so like maybe 14th Street or like Lincoln, somewhere between there is where the beachfront property will be. Anyway, it's a long answer to your very good question.
I live in Fontana, so it's 65 miles from here, so.
That'll be beachfront in 200 years.
But it's an interesting take, because I look at bubbles more as exercise for your marathon run. I feel like people who work for groceries and web, all those delivery companies and Web 1.0, those engineers now know what works and what doesn't work. So now when they're working for Instacart or DoorDash, they know, like, hey, let's not do this. There was a physical aspect of it. Knocking on somebody's door and delivering food at 9 in the night is something that we shouldn't be aiming for, because there's like a cultural or a shock. So I feel like even in the crypto space, if there is a bubble, I feel that bubble is, to an extent, good. I mean, there'll always be bad aspects of it. Bad aspects are there today also. We have stock market crashes, we have Bernie Madoff and all of that. I feel that on the ICO side, it's running so fast, and the exponential way it's growing, it's just going to make, it's like the decentralization of getting every developer, every person in the world, like, just get their knowledge high up. Yes, they will make some bets which are not going to be good, but at the end of the day, they will realize, like, that is what I shouldn't be doing. It's like a learning process, right? So I feel if they do lose some money, that's okay, but it took us 30 years probably for the internet penetration, and so forth. So it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to get everyone plugged into the tech world.
The problem is, if you invite civilians to invest in these securities, and they are securities, this idea that these are utilities is it's fine for you to believe that you have a utility token, but in 100% of the cases, the people buying them on Signal or Telegram and these crazy groups where people are hyping it or clicking on Google ads or clicking on Snapchat and Instagram ads to buy securities, if you believe it's a utility token in your heart of heart, that's not what matters. What actually matters is the perception of the individual, and if they feel they've lost their money and they were screwed, they will sue you. And what I've learned in this life is that people can sue you when they're wrong, and you can delude yourself into thinking you're right, and it doesn't matter. You will still be dragged through the mud for a decade or 5 years, which is exactly what happened when the dot-com bust happened. All of these investors, all of these public companies, everyone remembers Henry Blodgett getting banned for life. That is exactly what will happen here. So I suggest that you do not be involved in hyping any of these ICOs, and that you do not raise money until you've built your product. If you raise money before you build your product, and you invest in a company before it builds its product too early, or maybe there should be some staggered way of taking the money. So if Tezos raises 200 million, the idea that they take 20 million, I mean, the investors going into it knew they were going to sweep that money.
Right.
But if you did that in the venture space, we would take legal action. It would be criminal, you know, if you just took 20% of the money you raised. And there's a reason for that. You've totally disincentivized the management team from doing anything but hyping the currency.
Right.
So there are a lot of warning signs here, and I would just advise everybody to, if you have had massive appreciation, to take a lot of chips off the table. Bank the win with half your currency and then let the other half ride, but be very careful about putting your name and associating with things that are not real and raising too much money, because it will be a disaster, and the SEC and other finance organizations are humorless. They are humorless. They exist with very principled people. I have dealt with them before. Extremely principled people work at these government organizations. And when they feel that consumers have been ripped off, and when they look at the Google ads that I tweeted last night, or the Snapchat ads or the Instagram ads, if those people lose, even if they knew there was a possibility of losing, they will come after you as an ICO participant, a creator of an ICO or a platform. They are going to come after you, and they are going to do it to make an example of you. And they are going to win and destroy you in all likelihood. 99% chance they will absolutely annihilate you and ban you from life, like they did Henry Blodgett. And they just caught him with a couple of emails. And Mary Meeker and Frank Quattrone dodged a bullet in that case. But other people banned for life, and other people, they went to jail. People forget this. That's why I asked who's over 35. If you're under 35, you need to get a lesson on exactly how dangerous it is to ask people for money in this case. And to take money. Just be careful, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Somebody said boo. That's okay. You can boo. Some people can clap. Some people don't.
So let me take the other side of that.
Please.
Right. So as a founder, you know, specifically in the angel investing realm, majority of the time, those angel investors are basically funding you based on the relationship and the chemistry that's happening between the angel investor and the founder. And there's not much built at that point other than maybe a prototype, just a PowerPoint slide deck.
Not anymore. 10 years ago, you'd be correct.
Right.
But 10 years ago, it was usually this person has worked at these 2 companies, and they sold this company, and they built a prototype. Now, to get into Y Combinator or Launch Incubator, you actually have to have your product launched.
True.
So because there's so many companies out there, and it's so cheap to get your product launched, why do you need to raise $100 million when the product is going to cost $250,000 to build the prototype? So I think you have people investing in these companies without ever meeting the founding teams under a FOMA, a fear of missing out.
Right.
And that's what's very concerning and alarming to me.
Right.
Because I've seen this movie so many times. When a Y Combinator company 2 years ago would try to high pressure me, we're closing the round, you're going to miss out. I'd say, but isn't there going to be a seed round and a Series A and a Series B? I'm not going to miss out. And inevitably, those people came back 3 weeks later, 3 months later, and we're still raising. So the high pressure tactics and the way we are the antithesis of how you should correctly invest. And in the book, which I hope people, if you're investing in companies in crypto, you really should read the book, because in it I explain all my mistakes and after investing in 150 companies and having 6 turn into unicorns. And one of my golden rules here is to judge people by the craftsmanship of their product and to get to know the founders really well. In fact, the real way to invest is, to your point about chemistry, I would say it's not exactly chemistry, it's determining if this person is going to succeed in their life. If you determine that this person will be successful in their life, like it was obvious with Travis that he would be successful, then you can look at Scour, you can look at Red Swoosh, and then when he did Uber, you could say, well, this is the hardest working, most insightful, considered person I've met in my life, or one of them.
Right.
It's an easy bet to invest in Uber or whatever his next company will be.
But with Uber, the scenario is slightly different because you knew Travis Kalanick beforehand, right? Imagine, and I believe you...
But with Thumbtack, I didn't. I just
Right.
met Marco, and I looked at Thumbtack, and I was the second investor in that company, which is a $1 billion company now. And the product was so well designed in the
Right.
early stage.
Yep.
And he had built it with his friend for, sweat equity. It was obvious that he was going to win in his life in this company or the next, or the
Right.
next.
Right.
So you can make that determination just by looking at the product too.
Got it. Let's talk about Uber. You're going to, like, in your strategy is to make small bets, right? 10, 20 companies a year, and then
30 companies a year now. Next year, I'll probably do 60.
Right. So 30 companies a year now.
That's a lot of companies, by the way.
Right.
I know for ICO people who do 30 a day and they flip them and trade them, I know that seems like crazy. That's one of the wonderful things about this, is how outrageously optimistic and risk-taking this group of people is. That will result in an Amazon, I'm sure.
But it's also, I look at it like how Vegas housing development works. Like every couple of years, the Vegas region expands, and then it crashes and it contracts. But then when the next expansion happens, it just overruns the previous one.
Yep.
And I feel that the ICO is just mimiking what happened with Web 1.0.
Yep, absolutely it is.
And it's going to do that, and a lot of technology is going to come out of it. A lot of understanding is going to come out of it, and it's instead of being centralized with just few folks, it's now getting spread out and decentralizing it. I understand there's a risk for the securities and the regulation, but I also feel that we are now bringing all the people into the fold.
I love the fact that there's more investors. That's a huge win. As long as those investors are only investing low single-digit percentage of their net worth. So in the book, I tell people the right percentage for a person who is an accredited investor might be 1 to 5%, maybe upwards of 10% of their net worth if they want to do this 20, 30, 40 hours a week.
Right.
And in crypto, I hope the people who are doing this are not taking their $250,000 life savings and putting it into crypto. And that's what I fear will happen, because I am having Uber drivers ask me what ICOs I recommend.
Isn't that a good thing, though?
No, that is the worst possible thing. It is horrible, because if they're doing a small percentage of their work, of their investment, it's fine. But if they put all of their money into it, then it's a problem. So it really depends on how educated they are. That is the sign of a bubble, is when, I remember, like it was yesterday, I was at a gas station. This dates the conversation because it was a gas-powered combustion engine, but I was at a gas station in Manhattan, which also dates it because there's no more gas stations in Manhattan. And the guy who was the attendant was asking me what stock he should buy on the internet. And it was like, oh boy, the gas attendant who's making $5 an hour wants to start investing in this. So I like the idea that everybody invests as long as they do the work and the companies are real. And we all know, just look across the board, the people who are involved in this revolution, some percentage are scammers, some percentage are legit, and some percentage are just delusional people with no experience.
Right.
I'm waiting. I'm just sitting back and just watching. And I know one of those crazy delusional people is going to be the Bezos, is going to be the Bill Gates, And then there'll be a couple of Theranos too in there. But the right strategy for investors is either to trade this and, like on a daily basis, like some people are doing, and just reap profits off of dopey people buying everything, or to sit back and just wait for the winners to emerge. That's the smarter thing to do. Wait to see which one of these get traction, because those companies, if you bought Amazon in year 1 through 5, you did wonderfully. If you bought it in years 1 through 10, you did wonderfully. And if you bought it last year, you did wonderfully. Same thing with Google And same thing with Netflix, right?
Got it.
You can get in any time in the first 10 years of a great company and make an incredible return. So I'm waiting, and I asked people, what's the best company at dinner last night, and they didn't have any companies, really. They had projects, like projects. This is an awesome project. So, okay, does this project have revenue, or a product, or customers, or employees? It's like, no. Okay, that's a hobby.
But then
It's not a business.
But wouldn't we want to encourage them to go build it, just like you encouraged me without having anything, and you said, yes, I'll come over.
Yeah, but I didn't say to you, yes, here's $200 million, put $20 million in your pocket, and put $180 million in Switzerland. If I told you that a bunch of people gave founders $200 million, they took 20 million or 40 million of it, and then put the rest in Switzerland, you'd say, oh, that's like a James Bond film, right? Like, they're like some supervillain. It's like, really, you hid the money in Zurg, or Zug, or whatever the fuck this place is? Like, it doesn't matter what the name of the place is. It sounds like a supervillain from a Marvel film.
We have to take you to Zug.
Anyway,
which is the next conference?
There's real technology here. So I don't want to make anybody think that I don't appreciate how powerful this is. It's very powerful because it's open source and distributed and uncontrollable. And the last great uncontrollable thing was the internet, and then open source software in general, and RSS. So there's a long history of these open projects doing very well. And I was talking to Gordon Gould earlier this morning, and I was like, I think Bitcoin could go to zero. And he's like, well, if it was going to go zero, it wouldn't have gone to zero already. And I said, that's a very good point. If it hasn't been broken yet, maybe it is actually unbreakable like the internet. Because I remember the conversations that Gordon and I would have about the internet back in the day. It was always, I wonder if somebody could take the internet down. That was like a big concern. And I had that concern about Bitcoin, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm an old fart now. I actually think that Bitcoin can be taken down. Am I wrong, or am I right about that? And I know Bitcoin is manipulated massively. Like, if you put an open platform with currency on it, of course it's going to be manipulated. People manipulate Amazon affiliates, and there's not a lot of money to be made there. People manipulate SEO. Of course they're massively, massively manipulating Bitcoin.
Do you hold Bitcoin, Jason?
I hold 0 cryptocurrencies right now.
None?
No, I have a massive advantage investing in startups, like with real products, with real revenue. And I have a massive advantage over anybody else because of my reputation in Silicon Valley and my access to deals. In crypto, I do not have that. So one of the secrets of being a great investor is knowing where you have massive advantage over other people. But where I will, and so I don't do public stocks either because I don't have the ability to compete against those public people who own large portions of public companies. And I don't have the information advantage they have. So I think for the crypto people who are here, being involved in this very murky time is going to be a massive asset in 3, 4, 5 years. Because you're going to know who the bullshit artists are and who the legit people are. When the tide goes out on this thing, you're going to see who's naked, right? And a lot of people are going to get caught with their pants down. Like, it's going to be brutal when the tide goes out.
Right.
I think it's wise to spend time here because there'll be an Amazon and a Netflix in this group. But for me as a person who invests in companies and builds companies, there's no companies here yet. There are no companies. They're projects. They're just projects. They're just a bunch of people who wrote a white paper. When I see one of these hire their 20th employee and put their 2.0 product in, yeah, sure, then I'll join the board. I'll put $1 million in. I'll put $5 million into the company. We'll get a board of directors going. Hopefully they'll need us. Right. There is this existential risk that when Vinnie Lingham raises $30 million for Civic, he doesn't need to ever raise venture capital again. So that is one of my concerns as an investor is the next Amazon may not need investors.
So does that mean
They might not. It's possible. Or they may not need them for the first 3 rounds. But they'll always need a good board, advice, marketing, and the other stuff I provide. So I'm not worried about me. But frankly, I'm not worried about the venture industry either because,
But these companies that are doing TGE, token generation events, they typically don't need to have a board. And they don't need to give away a portion of. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, governance is super important for companies. When companies have bad governance, it doesn't go well. A lot of the companies in the Y Combinator's classes of 2013, 14, 15 were told to not have governance. It was like an adversarial relationship, and a lot of with the investors have no board. And then what happened was when they hit a bump, there was nobody who had enough of a percentage or enough at stake to save the company. And I had over and over again people from that 2013 to 2015 class of hype come to me and say, the biggest mistake I ever made was not having governance, not having a lead investor, doing a convertible note that was uncapped. Nobody knew what they owned in the companies. So this idea that it's cool to have no governance, like, that is 100% incorrect. The idea that the investors are the adversaries is overwhelmingly not true. It's a farcical concept. It may feel cool to take all this money down and to sweep 20% of it, but I think the SEC and some other folks are going to come down super hard, and we're already starting to see
A little bit of
a
that.
little bit of it. And I can tell you, once the SEC starts getting rolling on this, or other government organizations, all they have to see is one grandma lose her life savings, and then you get one attorney general in one town in Tallahassee or Boise, Idaho, wherever the fuck that person lost their money, and they just say, you know what, we're going to get those people and we're going to string them up and get that money back. And it's good. And you can, I'm telling you, you are going to be judged at the jurisdiction in that location where
Right.
that person lost their money, and you're going to be flying to Tallahassee with your attorneys hoping to stay out of jail. If you took money from them
Right.
and they bought it off of one of these ads thinking that it was going to appreciate, you're going to say to some local yokel courtroom, well, it was a utility token. They're going to say, what's that? Utility token? No, you took her money for a share in the company. You say, no, it's utility token. They're going to say, guilty. Boom. That's it. It's over. So just be eyes wide open about it, right? And if people feel that they've been treated unfairly,
Right.
the test is, in a lot of legal cases, is, you know, by a jury, or in other cases, like, if people feel they've been duped, the legal system, in the spirit of the legal system, starts to, you know, get to work. And we've seen that happen over and over again. So anyway, I don't want anybody to think or take away from this that I am anti-crypto or anti-Bitcoin or Ledger. All this shit is very real. But these ICOs and the way they're being marketed is a complete and utter disaster. It is the opposite of how proper investing should be done. Proper investing should be done by face-to-face meetings, multiple meetings, getting to know the team, and figuring out how you can provide value to them. And that's not happening here, so it's very alarming. And there'll be an Amazon that comes out of it that makes up for all the money lost. So while most people will lose their money, there'll be a small number of people who will hit that Amazon, and their wealth will be tremendous. So you want to be that person. So all you have to do is pick the Amazon out of the 5,000 companies that you see on these ICOs.
I know we are here to talk about your book.
No, I'm not. Don't worry about the book.
But I do have a question about
okay.
this.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch hats here, so we'll
Okay.
not talk about ICOs anymore.
I hope I'm coming across as the voice of reason. I hope this is reasonable.
You're here because we want everybody here attending to understand, learn, and get both sides of the story.
And if you find a real one with a real team, like 6, 7, 8 people who are working full time and are going to make it, please email me, like jason@calacanis.com, and I will go meet with that team, and I will invest in that team when they have some modest traction. I am looking to invest $500,000, $1 million in 2 or 3 of these companies, like I did with Abra, and I can invest $50,000 to $2 million in a company, no problem. Just find me a great company. But I am not finding great companies. I'm finding intriguing projects and concepts and ideas, which is great, but not for investing money for a return.
Got it.
Okay,
I'll
back
keep
to your
that in
question.
mind.
Yeah.
So you have...
What's the number one company? Tell me the number one actual product for an ICO. The
Bitcoin.
product. No.
Well-
ICO, of the ICOs, which one has the product that you've used that you think is a wonderful, amazing product that delights you in the way that Twitter, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb did when you first used them? Which product is it? 5, 4...
I have Ethereum, the ERC20 token, which allows me to put my money the way I feel should be invested, not controlled by the SEC, not controlled by somebody else. It allows me...
So you're investing into what?
I could invest in Civic. I could invest in Storage.
Okay, so speculation is the best product you've used so far.
I would probably
To be
say
clear.
not speculation. It's more about encouraging that particular product, because once I start using it, it's eat your own dog food kind of a mentality. I want to see what these decentralized storage systems are doing. If a decentralized storage
decentralized storage is the one.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, great. So you have an iPhone?
Yes.
So did you uninstall iCloud and then you're using the decentralized storage system?
I'm using
it doesn't exist?
No, it does exist. Storage has been running for almost 2.5 years.
Are you using it?
I'm not using it on the iPhone.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Are you using it?
I'm using it at...
Where? For what?
For work and for personal backups.
So instead of Dropbox and Google, you're using it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. You think most consumers are going to do that?
I'm sorry?
Most consumers are going to do that? They're going to get a benefit from it?
Well, let's go back to the internet. Most consumers didn't understand internet to begin with. It takes some time for them to...
No, I know, but these are big companies who provide a better service with storage going like this. The idea that people want to use a peer-to-peer storage system is something that, like, people who are cyberpunks and are going to see Blade Runner for a 4th time today are totally going to use. But 99% of people are going to go, oh, I'm out of storage? $4.99 for 1 terabyte, okay.
Right.
And they're done.
But Jason, we had the same...
They're not interested in, like, distributed... What, you're going to put my files on 25 different computers? I don't want people seeing my files. No, they're encrypted and they're distributed. I don't want to encrypt them. I want to read them. I can't read them if they're encrypted. No. They're not encrypted on your system. They're distributed. This is a crazy idea. But it's not going to work in all likelihood. 99% chance of failure. But my point is, nobody here has one product they're using that has been ICO'd.
But Jason, we had the same hesitation with Uber. Nobody wanted to get into somebody's car or somebody's home.
They were black cars when they started, so it wasn't that scary. And we knew in week 1 that people would use it because it was a real product. And we invested. There were 2 cabs on the road, and we were using the app for them.
All right, we'll go back to the book. All right, let's get to the book.
This is the big, important revelation of this talk. Yes, I actually have seen Steam It. And the content was terrible. The web design was horrible. And it looked like something that was built 8 years ago. Okay, so that was complete utter garbage. I don't know if it's working or not, but fine. I don't know who's using it, but I loaded it, and it was the worst web design I've seen, like, for like a decade. So whoever made it needs to spend whatever money they raised in their ICO on hiring a proper designer and building that product out. But anyway, that is a real product. How many people use Steam It today? Okay, great. That's actually interesting. So maybe that's the one. Maybe that's the Amazon in all of this. If it is the Amazon, hire a designer. Go ahead.
So Jason.
The point is, you have to build real companies. And so if you've raised this money with an ICO, get to work. Like, do the work and build products that delight customers like we're doing in Silicon Valley every week. You have to ship product. There's no shipped products here. Everybody's speculating, nobody's shipping. Enough speculating. If you take anything from this conference, no more speculation, shipping. Ship product that delights consumers.
Nice.
And you'll be fine.
Fine.
Okay.
Are you coming here next year?
Are you having it next year?
Well, I changed my mind.
Can we be part? Listen, you were a volunteer at my conferences. You took my team and playbook and you made this event.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah. Can we be partners on the next one? Can I buy half the conference from you? How much does this conference make? I'll buy half the conference. I'll tell you what. Right now, I will buy half the conference from you and we'll be partners. Don't ICO it. Don't ICO. No ICO. No ICO. Don't ICO the conference. I'll buy half from you. We'll be partners.
You know, honestly...
and then you can use my whole team, and you just show up, and you got all my resources. I'll buy half from you right now.
Wait, hang on a second.
We'll talk later. You already are using half my team and my whole playbook, so I might as well get some residual on this. Anyway, I'm fascinated by it. I think Kurt deserves a big round of applause for putting this on.
Thank you.
And for being a good sport as I break chops. I'm just trying to get everybody focused here. Focus on what matters. Product is all that matters. Delighting customers is all that matters. 99% of the energy in this room is ICOs and raising money. You got to slow that down and flip the script. 1% of the time raising money, 99% of the time building products that delight customers. That's what the ratio needs to be.
Right.
Go ahead.
Forget the book.
Okay.
Are you going to go Are you going to become Mayor Jason?
MayorJason.com. I have the domain.
Yep. But are you going to run for it? Because I've been always curious about that. What's happening with that?
All right. I'll be, since you have volunteered, how many days of your life at my events? 25?
Give or take.
Like a month you put in.
2013,
And you got paid exactly zero.
Zero.
I really appreciate you being a volunteer. And the companies who come to launch, who don't pay, appreciate you too. And so I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
And it means a lot. So I'll give you this huge announcement about MayorJason.com.
Okay.
Okay. So it started as a joke.
Okay.
Because I was at the poker game, and Trump won. And we were all like, somebody just basically said, like, Trump won, like, that means, like, Jason could win. Like, he could be mayor or something. And then somebody's like, you would be a great mayor. And I was like, I definitely would be a great mayor. I'd be the greatest mayor ever. And all these ICOs are total bullshit, except for mine, which is the hugest, The Apprentice, ICO.com. And so I was like, this is clearly a great moment in history, because Trump has lowered the bar so low that now people think I'm overqualified. So at the poker table, I registered MayorJason.com, and I redirected it, and then I started talking about solving problems.
Right.
And I said, listen, and now you've probably been watching me on TV talking a little bit about solving problems. I said, we need an innovation party. We have the Republicans and the Democrats who want to fight over ideology. The truth is, the problems that we face are so complex that they will not be solved by ideologies. They will be solved by taking the lean startup method, the testing method that we've refined in Silicon Valley and startups for 3 decades, and applying it with dexterity and without a position. We should be studying the data and trying 5 different ways to deal with homelessness, or 50. And any idea is a good idea. Let's test it, let's fund it, let's look at the data, and then we'll try to solve homelessness, but not by coming to it as a Republican, Democrat, or Libertarian. We will have the reasoned parties. And then somebody's like, wow, you do sound like a politician. That was really fucking good. And I was like, okay, great. And then they said, here's $1.5 million, and they gave me $1.5 million for my mayoral fund.
Got it.
And these are really rich, powerful internet people that you know. And so I'm happy to announce today that I am considering running for mayor of San Francisco because the money's been put up and I have the domain name. And from what I understand, the domain name's like 50% of this. Like, once you have the domain name, I think you're halfway there. And then if you have $1.5 million to run.
And plus you have a Twitter account, right?
And I expect to beat like Ed Lee. This guy's terrible. He's horrible. He's totally unqualified.
Well, I wasn't planning on asking you
I would say
that.
it's a 10% chance that I'll run for mayor of San Francisco.
Let's pretend you're the mayor. What are the 2 things you're going to do right off the bat?
Yeah, so I've been talking to people about the platform and what the platform would be. So right off the bat, people hate traffic. So if we solve traffic.
LA hates traffic as well.
Yes. So if you solve traffic, you will be a hero. So here's my idea. People are parking their cars on the street during rush hour in San Francisco. That would be like parking on La Cienega during rush hour. You know, they tow everybody.
Right.
You're just not allowed to park on Wilshire and Santa Monica Boulevard during rush hour. So if we just did that in San Francisco and did congestion pricing, we could actually make traffic move. So I'd solve traffic, and then I would do a one-time amnesty where if people paid, we would let them build an extra 5 or 10 stories on their building.
Got it.
But they would have to pay the taxes in advance for 10 years on that, the property taxes, to have the right. So all the real estate speculators in San Francisco would be like, okay, well, I get 10 more stories, I will give you $100 million. Now I'll raise it, and then I'll give it to the city. And then I would redeploy that money to add a BART station, for every year of my term, which would then make me a fucking crazy hero to San Francisco, because they'd be like, oh my God, the reason San Francisco is so terrible is there's no transit system. And that's why things are exacerbated, because of the transit system. So I'll just solve transportation, and I'll just raise a shit ton of money by letting people have more air rights. And then some environmentalists will complain, and then I'll be like, listen, if you want a hippy-dippy mayor, you have one. You picked Bloomberg to be the mayor. Like, we're going to get this shit organized, and it's going to be capitalism. We're going to clean up the city. And it may work.
Nice. Well, you could take some of that fund coming in and give it to Elon Musk and say we could use your
tunnels.
Or
just ICO the city. We're going to ICO the city. We're going to ICO San Francisco. Every square foot will be ICO'd, and we'll raise $1 trillion.
Jason, make up your mind. Are you for an ICO or against an ICO?
Okay, to be clear, The technology is fucking amazing. If science figures out a way to raise this money using an ICO, I will be right behind them.
Got it.
But literally, like, they're running up the hill, and I see all the arrows, so I'm just like, this is like Mike Jones running up the hill and Peter Pham, and I'm like this, right behind him. And the arrows are coming, and I was like, okay, you guys take the arrows, and then if the SEC does not squash them, I'll run up the hill right behind them and take credit for all their effort. But until then, no fucking way I'm taking money from people in China or India or wherever these crypto, Ethereum people are shipping their money in Telegram rooms. Like, that's a recipe for disaster. You got to be very careful that you know who this money is coming from, and that if investing is risky. If you lose that money, like I said earlier, people will take legal action against you, whether they're right or wrong, and you're going to have to deal with that. Whereas with sophisticated investors, they know that they've invested in 50 different venture funds or 100, right. So they can't claim that in the 100 first they didn't know the risk of the other 100 there. These are first-time buyers in a lot of cases with these ICOs. So that's what's very concerning, is these are new buyers buying, projects. That's the combination that makes this scary. New investors, unsophisticated investors buying unsophisticated founders' ideas for companies. If they were sophisticated in doing it, it would be no problem. If the companies were real, it would be no problem. But when you have both of these switches flipped the wrong direction, the plane is going to careen. So one of these switches has to be flipped. And if you could flip making those investors sophisticated, great, but you can't. You can't just make an unsophisticated investor who's invested in 50 companies for the first time that are white paper sophisticated. You have to wait 10 years for them to be sophisticated. But you can flip, I'm going to deliver the product. And that's the real message I have, is if you want to avoid all these problems, ship great products, then ICO. The regulation should be, you should only be able to raise like $1 million or $2 million or $5 million in an ICO until you've actually shipped the product, and then you should be allowed to do the next tranche. Or people should self-regulate and say, we're going to raise an unlimited amount, but we're going to put it into escrow where you can pull it back if we don't hit these milestones. That would be a better solution. So these $200 million raised by Tezos, I hope that it works out for everybody. But the better model would be, we raise $200 million, we're going to deploy $200 million, $20 million a year for 10 years, and at any point in time, you can take out 1/10 of your money, or whatever's remaining. You could literally pull it out. That would solve their whole problem. But I'm so impressed that they raised $200 million, but I don't need money, so I'm not racing into this going, oh, I need to get in on this. The FOMA has zero effect on me. I'm doing great investing in real companies. So the FOMA-driven purchases are very dangerous. And I just really want people to understand that, and just please ship your products.
Well, on that note,
thank you, Kurt.
Mayor Jason, I hope you win.
I hope I win too.
And guys,
I hope I have your vote. Read the book.
He's going to be here on the floor.
I will sign the books.
And he'll sign the book. Thank you. Thank you, Jason, for coming. Really appreciate it.
So good.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.